All right. Oh, she brought me flowers. Oh, she has a boot on.
Oh. It's my son. Did I tell you?
Yeah.
He-
All right, we're 2 minutes behind.
Yeah.
Let's get it. All right, are we good? Okay, good morning, everyone, to the Joint City County Planning Committee meeting for April 1st, 2026. This is not a joke. We are actually meeting. So in case you're wondering, everyone's here and we are meeting. I will call us to order. The chair of this committee, Nate Baker, is out this week. And so me as vice chair, I'll be running the meeting today. I will call us to order, and the first order of business is roll call.
Chair Baker, excused. Vice Chair Lee,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Caballero, Planning Commissioner Chigaris,
Here.
Commissioner Jacobs, Councilmember Kopak,
Here.
Commissioner Valentine,
Here.
Councilmember Boris.
Here.
Okay, here in roll call, we do have quorum, so we will get started. The second item on our agenda is the adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes as, the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please use the same sign. All right, and I'll make a note that Councilmember Caballero. I'm gonna get that, I swear. It's only been 2 years. Is now present. Next item on our agenda are the announcements. Who does it? Do we have any announcements? Okay, very good. See, we're moving on along. We're getting this here. Yep. All right, next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes for March 4th, 2026, Joint City County Planning Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We approve the minutes for March 4th, 2026. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please use the same sign. Passes unanimously. City and county managers' priority items, please.
None from the county.
Okay, the microphone turned off for some reason, but both city and county attorneys said there are no priority items at this time. Next item on our agenda, evaluation and assessment report. Yeah, do we have a time for this? I don't see a time on the agenda amount.
So
Believe it.
30 minutes.
30
Okay.
minutes.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Lee, members of the JCCPC. I'm Aaron Kane with the Planning and Development Department. Where was it? Oh, it's right here. There we go. So I was here back in August to give you kind of a briefing of the EAR, what it is. For many of you, it may be relatively new. It's not something we've done in quite a long time. Okay, quite a long time. It is required by both the UDO and the comp plan to do an evaluation and assessment report, or EAR, every 2 years with the adoption of the comprehensive plan In October of 23, we started work in the summer of 25 to put together our first report for you. It hasn't been done since 2018, which is why this may be relatively new to some of you, due to the drafting of the comprehensive plan. We put it on hold. And in this iteration, we decided to do it in 2 phases, and that's what we brought to you back in August. The first was a presentation on the Community Goals and Objectives Report Card, which had been already completed, and Kayla Seibel had presented that to you back in August, and if any of you are interested in that document, we can make sure we get that to you. We also talked about doing plan updates, including updates to the place type map of the comprehensive plan, as well as a look at our policies and any technical edits we may want to do with those. We presented that to the Planning Commission back in the fall and early winter. And we'd like to bring that back to you now to get your input and feedback. Phase 2, which Andy Lester will talk about a bit, is more about an implementation report on actions that we're working with Scott Whiteman and the community planning team, as well as some technical analysis looking at what has been done and accomplished over the last 2.5 years since the adoption of the comprehensive plan. So again, just to frame out where the timelines are, phase 1, we brought to you back in August, had a brief introductory conversation about that, brought it to Planning Commission in the fall and early winter for their feedback, and then I'm bringing it back to you for a final look before we move forward to the governing bodies for approval. Phase 2, we began that work in the fall after the full 2-year time period from adoption of the comprehensive plan. We're bringing it a brief update to you today, and then we hope to be able to bring you back a more full report on phase 2 this summer. So first off, I'll talk about the place type map updates. We didn't have these fleshed out back in August when we first came to you, but we do have those, and we have presented those to Planning Commission for their feedback and their recommendation. There are 6 of them. One of them in Treyburn, one at North Roxborough Orange Factory, one at NC 751, one at South Alston, one at the Redwood Convenience Center, and one on Baptist Road. I'll go through each of these in more detail. These are all staff initiated. None of these came from the private sector. We had that conversation back in August that we weren't going to entertain that at this time because the comprehensive plan was so relatively new. We didn't feel it was appropriate at that time. We're also not recommending any zoning changes through the evaluation assessment report, just changes to the place type map. So the first one is Treyburn. It is 4 parcels in the kind of the northeast section of Treyburn. And this is coming from a request from the County Economic Development Department. They have identified 66 acres in that area for that could be a possible economic development site. And so rather than have all of that area rural and agricultural reserve, they have requested that some of that be employment campus to be able to market it as an economic development site. It would also require moving the urban growth boundary to encompass those 4 acres, though not changing the place type of the majority of it. The area that you're seeing that remains rural and agricultural reserve is already under conservation easements and other holdings, but we would need to extend the urban growth boundary to encompass those in case we needed to run any water and sewer to the economic development site. So that's why you're seeing the movement of the UGB as we've recommended, has been recommended by County Economic Development, and Matt Filter is here from County Economic Development should you have any specific questions about that site. The second one is at Roxborough and Orange Factory. This was recently acquired by the county as a demonstration farm. So we are recommending that the place type change from suburban commercial to community institution to better reflect the use that that's going to have going forward. The next one is the place type, is off of NC 751. This is a site that we had identified originally as apartment and townhouse neighborhood. However, since then, the city has acquired it in order to for a lift station for sewer lift station at that site, which means it's not going to have apartments and townhouses on it and will be a utility facility. So therefore, a utility and public works facility made more sense. There we go. The fourth one is off of South Alston Avenue, just south of Carpenter Fletcher Road. The city council, those orange areas are apartment and townhouse neighborhood. City council last year approved a zoning change off of South Alston that converted those from general industrial to apartment and townhouse neighborhood. That left one parcel kind of sitting there between the neighborhood services and the apartment and townhouse neighborhood area. Doesn't make a lot of sense. You can't really do anything industrial on that site. Also, that is currently a dentist office, and we don't expect it to change anytime soon. So moving that to neighborhood services made sense. Redwood Convenience, this is the Redwood Convenience site. Simply, the county has acquired more property for that facility. And so taking those properties out of rural and agricultural reserve and moving the entire property of the facility to community institution made sense. And then finally, off of Baptist Road, when the comprehensive plan was originally developed, this site was identified as a utility. However, that utility is one cell tower. And this is a rather large site. I believe it's over 50 acres. So it didn't make a lot of sense to us to have that one cell tower deem the entire site as a utility. Therefore, it is outside the urban growth boundary. We're not recommending to change that. So we would have it go to rural and agricultural reserve. Those are the six place type changes that we are recommending. All 5 of the 6 were recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. One that did not was a 4 vote against for the Trayburn site. Planning Commission recommended against that. So I want to make sure you were aware. If there are any concerns that the JCCPC has with moving forward with any of these to the governing bodies, we'd love to know now. Or if you want to have some time to think about it, let us know in the relatively near future, but we'll be scheduling those to go forward for governing body approval in the relatively near future. Yes, Commissioner Jacobs.
Is this the appropriate time to ask questions about these?
Anytime is an appropriate time to ask questions.
Okay, all right. So I think one thing that would be helpful is seeing a bigger map
Okay.
that shows Trayburn, because when you look at, if you go back to that map, you can't see the fact that the additional 96 acres, can you flip back to it now?
Sure.
That it is adjacent to, I mean, it's contiguous to basically our industrial park.
Correct.
And
To the
it-
south there,
Right,
yes.
but it's really hard to get the bigger picture of it with that type of map. So first of all, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Also, just in terms of the back history on that, those 96 acres, were they originally part of the Trayburn campus, or were they originally any type of what was the original land use there?
Well, it's undeveloped now. I believe, yes, it was, Matt, if you can confirm.
Yeah,
I believe,
get-
yes, it was part of the original Trayburn.
Okay,
Good morning,
Yeah.
Matt Filter with
Mhm.
Durham County Economic Development. So you are correct. Yeah, so part of what we're requesting here is mainly kind of a fix or an adjustment. I think when the comprehensive plan was done here, there was maybe a misunderstanding of what easements were on this land, whether it was part of the Trayburn Corporate Park or not. And so these have always been in the Trayburn Corporate Park boundaries. If you think of like the corporate park boundaries of RTP or like the downtown
Yeah.
bid, those are kind of legal established boundaries. And so I think all we're asking here is to kind of adjust it based on the information that we've learned post comprehensive plan in 2023. Prior to that, this was, I think the place type was research and research applications
yeah.
in the previous comprehensive plan, and it was within the suburban tier, which was, I think, previously kind of a quasi similar to the urban growth boundary. So I think all we're asking is just kind of adjusting it based on the way it was before, based on the new information. This is not a request from like a developer or there's
Right.
like some hot project we're trying to do. We're just trying to
Sorry.
align it based on the information that we learned.
Okay, I think it's important that that is reflected in the staff information because I'm not sure how this happened, but it's basically a mistake. Because, you know, if it was part of the Trayburn Industrial Park, it should have stayed that way. The county has made significant investments in Trayburn. And as a matter of fact, we recently spent $30 million upgrading the city's lift station at Snow Hill, not the counties, but the cities, to service Trayburn so that we can have the full capacity. And that, I assume, Matt, if you could explain, would the Snow Hill pump station actually serve this property? Do you know?
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
And I mean, this is just something that I think nobody caught at the time,
Yeah,
you know, so
okay.
how it happened, I don't
Okay.
know, but I think we've just learned new information since that time and planning's been very helpful
Yeah.
to work with us just to kind of adjust it based on the information that we've learned in the last
I
couple of
just
years.
want to make sure the context is, you know, because the planning commission voted against this, they may not have understood that this is remedying something that really shouldn't have happened in the first place. So, and also I know in the comments that the planning commission was concerned about the utilities being extended beyond the urban growth boundary here. And I don't know if there's any way to make it clear or have any assurances that this is to service the Trayburn. This is for servicing, the utilities are to serve the industrial park. Also, I know we have talked about possibly helping people who have failing septic systems, but those being the only situations in which we would do that. So is there any way to clarify that in any way?
Absolutely. We can include that. We can include all of this information, and it's been great working with Matt in putting together information. We can make sure it's even more clear when we take this to the governing boards for their consideration. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add that city code explicitly prohibits the extension of water and sewer beyond the urban growth boundary, except in a few instances that are related to like health and safety concerns. So city code already precludes that. Wherever the line is, that's where the line is.
Director Young, thank you for that clarification. My question was actually going to be about my concern with the extension of the UGB and what signal that might send to others with respect to any precedent that this might establish.
So I'll take a crack at that, which is as we were beginning the work on this summer and into the fall, I can tell you we received several requests from private entities interested in using the EAR either as a tool for rezoning or a tool for extending the urban growth boundary. And we basically said, we did say no to all of them. Simple, based on the direction we received last August from this body, we were not entertaining those at that time. When the EIR comes up again in the fall of 2027, we can have that discussion again with you all. But we'll of course follow your lead if you say not interested. And that's what we told everybody this time.
Thank you for that. And I just want to go on record with respect to this location being used for as an economic development location. I mean, certainly I'm in favor of jobs in our community. And so to the extent that this area be used for that purpose, count Commissioner Valentine in on that.
Okay.
I'm just worried about sort of secondary consequences as a result of some of the decisions that might be made regarding UGB. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate my colleagues' comment about the precedent and also just the question from Commissioner Jacobs about making really clear about the rationale and the reasons for the need for what I'm understanding is kind of a fix. I think, I also am, interested in, doing what we can to protect the UGB. And I think in a variety of cases that has come up when it's been privately initiated and, we've really pushed to try and protect that as part of our overall growth plan. And so I want to be careful about the signal we're sending if in this case, when it's county driven, that we are letting it move forward. But so it's really, I think, important to be clear about the history and the rationale there, that we're drawing a clear distinction if this does move forward to the governing body for consideration, why this is different than the cases that we are considering through privately initiated requests for rezonings, annexations. So thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? All right, thank you. Continue.
Okay, I'm now going to turn it over to Peyton Burgess, another member of the Growth Management staff, who's going to talk to you about the policy updates that we'll be recommending.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Peyton Burgess. I am with the growth management team. And one thing that our team did, in addition to the place type map changes that Aaron just showed you, was review the current D policies and their commentary. So the D policies are policies within the comprehensive plan that are meant to address development. So how that shows up for us in our practice is the comprehensive plan consistency review that you all receive in packets in relations to specific rezoning cases. So what we did is we looked at that document and how we have used that document over the last couple of years, and we noticed kind of some things that were happening as far as you could make, as a developer, you could make a proffer for native plants, and then all of a sudden you've checked off 3 exceeds boxes in that document. And some other policies were always getting meets UDO standards. And so we just looked at how the document was kind of working, and we tried to reimagine it in a way that was a little bit more concise and a little bit more efficient. And so what we did is we suggested some edits to those policies, and you'll see those in your packet. While most of those edits are clerical, we also recommended the removal of some of the D policies. And so I want to be really clear that what that means is that we are suggesting that it be removed from that comp plan review document and not necessarily from the comp plan. We're not suggesting the removal of the policies in general, just removal of the policies as we apply them on a case-by-case basis in the comprehensive plan consistency review document that you all get. And so we also suggested edits to the commentary of those policies. And the actual edits to the policies themselves are something that needs to be approved by the governing bodies. And the edits to the commentary is something that staff provides. And the commentary is important because it shows how we sort of apply and interpret the policies. So that's an important one because the applicant is able to see kind of how they're able to meet the policies. And 2, it makes sure that our team, as we go through and we analyze proposals, are applying these policies fairly and consistently. And so the changes that we have brought forward to you all, again, I want to remind you that we're not suggesting we remove any comp plan policies from the actual comp plan. It's really more focused around, again, this case-by-case comprehensive plan consistency review. And a lot of the edits that we are suggesting are a little bit more technical in nature, and just some of the ways that we've seen, how things can be maybe interpreted differently or just intending to provide clarity. And so here is a summary of some of the changes that we are proposing. And again, I know that this looks a little bit scary, but I want to remind you all that a lot of the changes are really technical and just meant to clarify. And then also with the edits to the commentary of the policy, a lot of them are staff suggesting commentary where commentary wasn't before. And so again, that's just important because we want to make sure that we're applying those policies fairly and consistently and being transparent about the way we're analyzing our proposals. I did want to bring up a couple key policy changes. One of those is policy 50. This one has a little bit more of, some depth to the change that's being made. And it is the policy that has historically regarded the safe 10-minute walk to a park. And so we are changing that to kind of contextualize proposals a little bit better and make it so it's not just a blanket half-mile walk, but maybe looks at, the surroundings a little bit more to apply this policy. And this is at the direction of Parks and Recreation.
Peyton, if I can just interrupt you 1 second. And that aligns, if you back up a slide, That aligns with the new parks system plan. That is the policy in their plan. So we're trying to, when we have a plan that is newer than the comprehensive plan, that has, more recent adopted policy, we want to try and align the comprehensive plan back so there is not a disconnect. So I think that's a lot of the impetus here. Yeah.
And then it went off. Good morning, sorry about that. Also, y'all brought this to us a couple months ago when the Parks and Rec, or the Recreation, I don't remember what it was
I
called.
think it was last meeting they actually.
Oh, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so,
We talked about a couple.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is, I'm just basically saying it's not the first time we've seen this. Okay, thank you.
Chair. Thank you. And just as a reminder, I know we saw it last meeting, and you said this is based on the new parks plan, which was developed in partnership with the Recreation Advisory Committee as well. So it's just then plugging that into our broader visionary document, the comprehensive plan. Okay, thank you.
So I think that this really kind of highlights what we were trying to do with the EAR as well. In the sense that we're really trying to look at this and bring it back up to speed and align with maybe some of the existing documents that we have, and how we're actually applying the policies. The other key policy that I wanted to talk about is policy 79. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is the policy that we received the most feedback on. It's been through several iterations, and ultimately, as you can see, we are suggesting very little changes to it. We're adding habitat corridors, and that's to be more consistent with how that shows up in our open space documents that we reference, because it does reference habitats and corridors. So that's trying to align with that. And then also steep slopes, because that's what it's called in the UDO. And then we just correct the natural heritage areas to show that we're talking about the North Carolina natural heritage areas. But overall, minor edits to the policy. So moving forward, what we are requesting from you all today is.
I'm just curious on 79, you said it's the policy where you got the most feedback on?
Yes.
And was the feedback on prior suggested language, or was it for more substantive rewrites of the policy? Kind of what was the general nature of the feedback you got on this policy?
We had a little bit more substantial changes to this, and I think that there was just a fear that the policy would lose some of its teeth. And that was not staff's intention. We were just trying to make it so that it was a policy that we could better reflect what was happening as far as natural resources go on the site. But I think that there was concern that it was maybe doing too many things. And so we listened to a lot of that feedback, and we pulled back on some of that language to make it a little bit more true to its prior form.
Also, one more thing was in an earlier rewrite of this policy, we had to address concerns we got from some residents that they were, as Peyton suggested earlier, they were doing one thing that was knocking out 2, 3, 4 policies and giving them a thumbs up on that. We tried to combine a couple of policies into 79 and make it longer and more holistic. And that also, as Peyton alluded to, created a concern among some of our residents and advisory boards that was diluting or not emphasizing natural resources enough. So we pulled back on that based on that feedback and went back to the more original and added those other ones back in.
And so now we are just requesting direction on how to move forward with this. If this is something that you all are ready to see go to the governing bodies, or if this is something that you all would like to provide feedback on, that's something that we can incorporate. We would need comments for this within the next about 2 weeks to make it on next month's agenda if you would like to see this come back. Or there is no specific timeline for these changes. So if this is something that you all would like to take a little bit longer on to provide feedback for us, that would be okay too.
Matt, and well, actually, let's go with Commissioner Jacobs first. Well, Matt just spoke. We'll just come back to it.
Matt.
No, you first and then,
Okay.
that's okay?
Yeah, so, I'll just say that, related to the place type map changes that we saw, I don't have any issues with those. I have a lot of concerns about what is being proposed related to the policy changes. I really don't agree with the description that these are just technical changes. When we have, we just recently adopted this plan. We have not implemented the new UDO yet, which is supposed to have been done, right, in partnership with these policies, right? I mean, that is the actual implementation of the policies will be when we adopt our new UDO. But to then, when I look at the list of basically removing 21 D policies, editing 28, only adding 4, and then 1 new policy, all of these changes to me are really substantial. And I think they really have implications to the policies. The other thing that I'm concerned about is understanding the rationale for some of them. When I read that, well, this is going to be done at the site plan stage, I think it really, I just question the intent of why we did the comprehensive plan and our process, because from my perspective, everything shouldn't just be at the staff level. Like, a lot of our policies are speaking for the values of the community and should be front and center in the planning reports, in the documents. I think that's really important. So I don't want to take up time now going through kind of all my concerns. I just wonder, I see people in the audience here. We got several emails about things. Is Melora McCall in the audience here? Okay, I don't know her, but she sent an email that to me really summed up a lot of my perspective about this at this moment. So what I would like to request is that we do slow this down. And I would like to have the opportunity to sit down with staff and anyone else on this committee that would like to do that. We could do it as a group or one-on-one, whatever. We could have a subcommittee, whatever works for people. But I would really like to sit down and really dig into all of this and just make sure we're being really careful about implications. That is what I'm requesting at this point in time. And also, I would like to get all of the written comments that have been shared from the Planning Commission, any city or county department, Parks and Rec, any commission like DOST, EAB, groups like Preserve Rural Durham. I would like to actually see their written feedback and comments related to this as well, if that could be shared with all of us.
Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
something we could provide.
So that's what I'm requesting, that we definitely slow this down. And I would like to meet again in the next month with staff and whoever else from this committee would like to do that. Thank you.
Councilmember Kopak?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Lee. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Jacobs, for those comments. A few questions and comments. First of all, can you remind us what the Planning Commission feedback was on the EAR? Maybe Chair Shigaris can comment on that, but I'm curious to hear that perspective.
I forgot what the vote was.
Yeah, the planning commission saw the policies 3 times. They saw it the first time in October, then again in November, and then finally in January. The vote was for approval, 7-4. We had some discussion on especially policy 79, and they saw various iterations throughout that. At the final meeting, there was very little discussion on it. The Planning Commission took their vote and was done. I don't recall significant number of comments at that meeting from the commissioners themselves.
Yes. Well, the first time we saw it, I guess what had happened is at the August JCCPC meeting, Chair Cameron couldn't make the meeting, and she notified me at the last minute, and I was already preoccupied. I couldn't make so neither her or I made the August JCCPC meeting. So that's where this was first discussed. And so it came up at the October Planning Commission meeting, and we were like, what is this? It was a bit of a surprise, I guess, because it hadn't been done since 2018, because we didn't have a comprehensive plan. And so at that time, we did a 1 cycle delay to look into it further at the next meeting because of all of the feedback from the community and concerns over the changes would be substantial, as Commissioner Jacobs has mentioned. We did another 2 cycle delay. And during that time, there was, I guess, a number of meetings between some of the citizens and the planning department, and some of the policies were modified. But still there was concerns about the actual impact that the technical changes would be more than just technical changes, as Commissioner Jacobs has mentioned. But our rules state that we had to move something on. We can only delay for 3 cycles. So we did have to have a vote on it. And the people that said no were basically no votes because of the same concerns of the technical changes being more than actually technical changes. And I guess more of the impression that there had been a lot of community input into the comprehensive plan. A lot of meetings, a lot of involved citizens taking their time. And then this just comes along and there weren't meetings with the community and input wasn't taken, and they're like, why? Why would we come out and put all this time into the comprehensive plan on which the UDO is supposed to be modeled, and then we're just going to come and change it? So that was not received positively, basically, by the community. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Second, so when I was doing the pre-read and looking at the updated language, the commentary, I had difficulty understanding what had been edited. I saw just a few areas that were redlined in the document.
Track changes aren't.
Yeah, I apologize for the interruption. I just realized that the PDF version that's in your packet did not show all the track changes, which is problematic. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I just
Okay.
went into SharePoint, like the Word document is correct, but when it got PDF'd, the majority of the track changes went away.
okay.
So,
Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
helpful
so you
to
all
know that it
would-
was intended. So
Exactly.
Okay,
Helpful
so
for me
we'll
to-
we'll make sure to get a more easily readable. I don't know how or why that happened. But yeah, we'll make sure to get you a Word document that shows all the track changes.
Okay, thank you. And then could you provide just some more background on the sequencing of the LDC development, the UD update,
Mhm.
and the EAR? I know that there probably was an original idea of timing for each and how they would sequence, and
Yes.
things change. And so I would just love your perspective on what the original idea was about how those would be sequenced and what is kind of happened.
Right. The original idea for phase 1 of the EAR is that we would try to time it as much as we could to the 2-year anniversary of the comp plan as called for in the UDO and the comp plan. which would time it to the fall of 2025. So we came to JCCPC in the summer and had already started work on it and then continued that work based on the conversation we had with this body back then. The original intent was to go to Planning Commission in October. And then prior to the release of the LDC, and also to allow for some last minute changes if need be based on any adopted policy changes. But again, these were technical, so we didn't expect a whole lot. We'd have that wrapped up and then the LDC could continue. Now, obviously the LDC has not been able to continue, and Planning Commission requested additional time to deliberate, which we were more than happy to give them. And so that's how we have ended up where we are now.
So I think from a starting point for me to feel like I've done my
Mhm.
due diligence, that it will be helpful to see the.
Yeah,
marked up
absolutely.
version.
Absolutely.
And so I think because of that, I would not be supportive of moving it forward.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Yeah.
I don't think 2 weeks will be enough time.
Okay.
And if there is a subcommittee as part of my own, homework and due diligence, I'd be happy to sit down with you, Commissioner Jacobs, and staff just to do that.
Mhm.
I also think it's just important to evaluate, and I will do this as I do my homework on it, what the role of the EAR is around technical changes, and how we define that versus, the development of the comprehensive plan, to see what those parameters are, because I understand the value of the ability for staff to respond to what you've been hearing and make technical changes and not have it become another comprehensive plan update, right?
Right.
Because of the time and staff resource that requires. And so I just want to make sure that I'm assessing, how we're defining a technical update in order to give you the flexibility and freedom to do that without it requiring that full time
Right.
and effort, that we're kind of staying within those appropriate parameters.
Sure.
And so I'll bring that lens as I do my review. And so I would second the request, and I obviously hear you agreeing to give us a little bit more time on this. So
Absolutely. And if I could suggest something Mike Woodard would say, former Councilman Mike Woodard would say back when he was on sitting on this body and chairing this body was it's better to do it right than to do it fast. So what I would suggest is that, yeah, if we can do it in 2 weeks and bring you back something next month, that's great. But if schedules do not allow a subcommittee to meet with staff and have these discussions and have you all feel comfortable with where we're going, then we'll allow for the time to have those discussions. There's, as Peyton mentioned, there's nothing forcing the policies to move at any particular pace. Is it something I'd like to check off my list of things to do? Sure. But again, we'd rather get it right and do it in a way that you all are comfortable with and can support going forward.
Great. Thank you for that. And you may have answered this, but I just want to hear it one more time. As we're thinking about this update to the comprehensive plan and reviewing it in regards to the UDO, do we see any concerns about reviewing it against the existing UDO when we're also in the process of updating that document? Do you see any potential conflict arising there?
So that was one of the purposes of what we did in this phase of the EAR, was we have noticed several things, and some of the community members have noticed several things that come up as we review against the policies. For example, there are a couple of policies that the one that I think is I'm remembering the most is about mass grading and phasing. Well, since the comp plan was adopted, we have updated the UDO to improve that. So now our interpretation is that everything meets that policy because we've updated the UDO to meet that policy. So now you have to meet it. And so the concern we got from community members was they're getting that check marks. We give you at the end of a staff report, we say it meets this many out of this many applicable policies. Well, they're always getting that one because we've updated the UDO to that. And so from a staff perspective, we were suggesting, well, let's not include that in the staff report anymore because we're giving them a free check. And then when we suggested that, some members from the community said, you're trying to not review that against that anymore. Well, So we're trying to balance, a review against policies for which the applicants can actually make changes to their proposal to meet those policies.
That's a really helpful clarification. And perhaps it gets to this idea of, graphic plans as well, which sometimes we hear requests for, which tend to just reflect what is required under the UDO versus a commitment. And in this case, so the rationale for removing some of those policies was they have to do it anyways. And so by removing it doesn't mean they don't have to do it. It's that they have to do it anyways. And so why give them kind of credit for something that's required?
Exactly.
I understand. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the big criticisms is when you look at our comp plan consistency analysis, is there are a lot of things that say, consistent by meeting UDO standards. And that could be one of two things. We have updated the UDO standards to implement a particular policy so that now that is the baseline, the new baseline that's required. It also is that some of the policies that were put in the comprehensive plan were to be reflective of existing good policy and ordinance direction that we already have in place, right? So it wasn't necessarily doing anything new, but it was, the community wanted it kind of memorialized that like, this is our stance on, whatever. For instance, there's one about ADA compliance. That is required. That is not optional. So giving someone a free pass every time saying, yes, you're going to be compliant because you have no choice but to meet ADA. Like, we're not getting anything. So that really shouldn't be one that we review each proposal against, because they have to do that anyway. So we're giving folks like free credit for stuff that they don't have a choice and they have to do anyway. So I think that's a lot of it too, is just going through and recognizing, trying to add more value to that analysis by focusing on the things where the applicant is having to make a conscious choice to do something above or beyond, as opposed to giving them credit for something that they have to do regardless. If that helps. And we can get, when we have, individual one-on-ones or small group meetings or however we do it, I think we can walk through policies and kind of explain staff's logic, and maybe that will kind of help, see where we were coming from as we look at these. It's, I think also frustrating on staff's point, from our side to like, okay, yeah, we know they got to do this. We know they got to do this. We know they got to do this. It's almost kind of devaluing our analysis in some ways.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to align myself with some of the concerns that have been raised here today with regards to slowing this down just slightly. But I want to go back to the place type map. I meant to say something about particularly the Redwood convenience. And we're changing it from a rural and agricultural reserve and community institutional and recreation open space to just community institutional and recreation open space. What are the practical implications for community with respect to that change?
Not really, not a whole lot. Areas that are rural and agricultural reserve can have housing consistent with the rural residential place type. So as we update our analyses as to how much land we have available for residential development or for agriculture or so forth, we'll base that off a lot off the place type map. So adjusting this acreage to be community institution takes it out of available land for rural residential development. Which it is, because it's now all owned by the county and it's going to be part of the red. So we're really just making a place type map, recommending a place type map change to reflect reality on the ground that will then give us better projections when we do our periodic projection updates.
I guess my general concern is when I talk to residents out in the county, whenever they see, whenever they see the language, rural and agricultural move, they're thinking that the character of their communities are changing overnight, and that's what the idea is. And so I thought it would be important with respect to my constituents, that we have that conversation, we have it on the record. And I mean, this isn't necessarily a proper forum for this, but when you go out to some of the more rural parts of our our community, which isn't far from the city.
Mhm.
Some of the development that happens doesn't seem to make sense with respect to, you know, the character of what is largely farming communities. And so I have some concerns about that. I know growth is going to happen, it's inevitable, but that we consider, you know, how we're moving with a lens towards, you know, the changing character of our community.
Sure, and that's a very astute observation, and I appreciate that. And we'll make sure as we have those situations where there is a proposed conversion from rural and agricultural reserve to something of a greater density, that we bring that up in the staff reports. As well as be clear, that's not what's happening here.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I'm fine with waiting a little bit so folks can see track changes and whatnot. I do want to say that I appreciate, basically what I'm hearing from staff is you're trying to be more accurate. You're trying to be more accurate in place type map, and you're trying to be more accurate in our table for policy usage. I think at some point it would be helpful because folks also don't understand the requirements at site plan. And I think the issue that I have is that at the end of the day, I honestly don't think people realize how much regulation we actually have. They think that it is a free-for-all, and it is in fact not a free-for-all. And so, and it's because they just, to Commissioner Valentine's point, they just don't like change. But I'm not here, I mean, I appreciate the tension around that, but change is, what is it, like change, death, and taxes? Like, that's just what it is. I think at some point what would be helpful is to do in the table of sorts, if you exceeded it, great, but that there is some commentary that's like, there are however many percentage of policies, rules, whatever, that have to be met, period. So that if you are a person, you know, some kind of visual that is like a huge percentage of the thing that has to get built is vetted by staff and aligned to rules. So that, because you're going to get it both. What I worry about for staff is you're going to get it both ways. You're going to be like, oh, you pulled it out, that means it's not happening. And also giving points for things that are just the rules. So I think that we have to figure out a way to communicate that more effectively. I hear what y'all are saying about like, well, why are we giving them credit for doing the thing that's just part of the UDO? I think folks still don't also understand that the comp plan is just guidance. It's policy. It is not the rules. And so it's just a reminder of what is what, and again, that we really need our LDC. So, yeah.
So I appreciate that very much. And one of the things I think we struggle with in our staff reports, as you know, are very long. You know, and I think some of it, sometimes it falls under the category of like too long did not read, right? One of the things that we're going to be coming back to you all with probably in the next few months, we haven't quite solidified, is seeking some guidance from you all on what you would like to see in staff reports versus not. Because for instance, we have a whole chart about, it has all sorts of basic like environmental things and what's required in the ordinance, whether they're exceeding that or not. And so like there's multiple things going on in the report, right? And there's lots of attachments. And so we will be coming back to you all at some point in the near future to talk specifically about staff reports and their content. As many of you know, the content of those staff reports has evolved and grown over time. Every time, you know, an elected official says, well, I'd like to see such and such in it, you know, and that may be like 10 elected officials ago and it's in there. And so we want to have an open conversation with you all as to what you find valuable in the reports. Also ways that we can potentially focus on the information that is most helpful to you all. Are there things in there that like, y'all don't read, it's just not, you know, whatever, right? So we want to zero in on making sure that those reports are helpful to our elected officials and also clear. So anyway, so that's TBD to come, but I think relevant to the point you just made.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone has expressed it. Did you want to speak one more time? All right, go ahead.
First of all, so I heard Matt saying that he would be interested in discussing, I don't know if anyone else, okay, and Shanetta. So maybe we could, Sarah, you could help organize us getting together. I just want to state for the record that I submitted very detailed comments around the Cheek Road rezoning, where I went into detail about issues related to staff reports that I didn't feel, and this is also related to the EAR, because if we are kind of removing policies and including new policies, this is also the opportunity to try to address some of the concerns that I expressed around when there are rezonings being considered outside of the urban growth boundary, that I believe there needs to be policies that directly address the impact to the loss of agricultural farmland, and also other county things like EMS, which is not being, I don't think fully the cost or impact right now. And also Durham Public Schools, how do we evaluate the impact to school funding? Because that is a direct county cost that right now is not being fully reflected in the way it's being looked at, like our per pupil spending. So those are things that I raised in my comments. So there's the opportunity also with the EAR changes to try to address those as well. So I hope that we'll look at those.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, we definitely can look, for instance, if there is policy missing that is not, if we don't have something that's adequately addressing an issue, we can certainly look at drafting a new policy to make sure that that is adequately covered, or amending a policy to make sure that the issue is adequately covered. I was going to let Aaron talk a minute quickly about EMS and our work with them, and we're definitely getting closer. I want to say that for DPS, we heard years ago the concern, and so we include both the Durham County per student kind of maintenance. I think it's like $5,000 and some odd dollars. We also added a year or two ago now, the capital cost per student should a new facility need to be, which is over $100,000. That is in the staff report. I think maybe part of that staff report conversation is maybe that information is getting missed because it's in the wrong place, right? And it's not with the rest of the fiscal analysis. And so we can talk about that, but that information has been there for years. So I don't want folks thinking that that information isn't included. It is. We also are limited because Durham Public Schools, we cannot compel other agencies to provide us certain analysis or, so we do the best we can with the information they're willing to give us, is what I like to say.
And I have seen that, but what's not in there right now is the operational cost, because we have a per pupil local spending amount of over $5,000 per student.
It's in there.
Okay. I've seen the capital.
No, both are in there.
Okay, both are
So
in there.
when developers proffer, it is usually the per pupil that they, or well, it's a 500, yeah, it's not that, yeah, it's way, but it's determined on what the information that DPS gave us. And then the other part of that is, and I just want to be real loud about it, people choose where they send their send their kids. So like the impact isn't necessarily going to be felt at DPS. I mean, that's the thing that's really hard to track. Just because there's a neighborhood built in its zone for whatever school does not mean that that school is actually going to get that many kids added to it, because we know that there's private schools and there's private school vouchers and charter schools, and we know that DPS is actually losing enrollment. So that is, I think, a tricky thing to try and really map honestly, because people have individual choice of ultimately where they're sending their kids that we don't track in the same way.
I will also say that about 2 years ago, we started a much better collaboration with Durham Public Schools. They updated their forecasting methods. They updated their student generation rates, and we now followed. Before, we were using some kind of random general generator. We're now following DPS's student generation rates and their projections. We follow them not only for as a whole, but DPS is now divided into 5 regions, and we have the student generation rates by region and by housing type. And we use exactly the ones, and we get annual updates from them every October-ish. So we use those and we incorporate those into our staff reports.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Councilmember Kolpak, but we're trending over time. All right, and so let's start to wrap it up.
Sure, and I was going to say, acknowledging, I think we're a little off topic, that I welcome staff's work and proposal on updating the staff report template to make it more usable for you all, for us, for residents. And also just, I appreciate the information that is in the staff report on DPS. And I think it's a signal that, the impacts, potential impacts on schools can be great. And then it's worth thinking about continuing to increase expectations around that per pupil amount.
All right, thank you.
Yes, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding the direction from you all going forward. It sounds like go ahead and move forward with the place type map changes. And we can put together the staff reports for each of those and bring those to you. But on the policies, we're going to hold off. We're going to look, and I believe the hands I saw were Commissioners Jacobs and Valentine and Council Members Burris and Kopak. So I'll work with you, Sarah, to set up a time to get everybody together. Getting 4 elected officials in the same room at the same time may mean this does not come back next month, but we'll expedite that as quickly as possible. So with that, I am going to bring up Andy Lester, one of the principal planner that works in the growth management team. And as Andy mentioned to me yesterday, he won't like me saying this. Andy's been on this team for 4.5 years now. 4 years, and has never presented to JCCPC. So I'll introduce Andy Lester, our principal planner, and be nice to him.
They like to keep me in the basement. So good morning. I'm Andy Lester with Growth Management, and I'm here just to inform you regarding some of the types of information and data for the technical data for phase 2 and what that will entail. So the first item, I'll read through this and then I'm going to play around with this for a couple minutes for you. So there's three key sort of pieces of information that'll be in the technical analysis. The first item intends to examine the rate and types of place type changes that have occurred since the adoption of the comprehensive plan. For instance, are there types of place types that have changed more than others? And if so, is there a tendency to a specific place type? The second item will look at the compliance and applicability of each comprehensive plan policy used to review zoning map changes and annexations. So there are currently 30 plus policies, as we stated, that are used in staff reports to determine a proposal's consistency with the comprehensive plan. So for each of those policies, we'll know which policies tend to be complied with the most, least, which ones tend to not be applicable, and which ones are really never met when cases come in. The third item that will be included is information regarding affordable and income restricted units. So currently we have all of the numbers units proffered through the zoning map changes. And I'll go through this little master spreadsheet with you to show you sort of what information that we have. But in general, the data contained here is the characteristics of those affordable units proffered during a rezoning. So those include distinguishing between affordable and income restricted, 10-year AMI, and just the percentages of those affordable units compared to the overall project. So that information we do have. The other key components that will be included and that are being finalized right now are the status of those affordable units in terms of building permits and certificate of occupancies. So I'm going to start with this one, and then I'll end on that last part, and then I'll get to that. So if you guys will look at your screens, so this is an internal database that our team uses that tracks every rezoning since 2020. Oh. Hey, okay. Again, it's my first time. Oh, okay. All righty. Thanks for bearing with me. So again, before you is the master spreadsheet that we have for our group. There's a lot of information, but I'm going to scroll to the more important pieces for you. Within this database, it tracks every rezoning in terms of its characteristics of size, proposed zoning, existing place type, and any changes associated with it. One of the two key components of this database that I just want you to see, just denoting that we do have the information, we just need to make it more readable and presentable to the public and not me, is that we have all of the, let's see, where is it? All right. So we have all of the existing place type information. So within this database, we have things that have been approved in terms of the rezoning that were found to be not consistent with the comprehensive plan or partially consistent. So what that means is, so we have the information in terms of which place types have changed to what. And so we have noticed that we are sort of losing the neighborhood place type, which will be in the report. But this is some of the information found with it. So we track the existing place type and the new ones if things are found inconsistent. So that'll be wrapped up in a bow for you in phase 2. But this is the raw data that we have for our team. The other interesting pieces of information that we have, which is a lot, is so for all those 30+ policies that we review, each one is within this database. And since 2023, we have tracked sort of each plan's policy or consistency. Each case's consistency with those policies. So you'll have information on each policy and how consistent cases have been or not been with each of those policies, which will be some cool information to just to know and inform us with phase 1. So that is here. So there's a lot of information. So as it mimics the staff report, so what you'll see is policies can be exceeded, met, or it's not applicable, or it's, again, not met. And these metrics are based on the final version of a proposal. So this actually accounts for any additional proffers made at council that addresses some of these policies. So everyone has I've gone back every rezoning to see if any additional proffers were made to make the case more consistent with the comp plan. So that data is here, and it's an ever ongoing tracking situation. And the last little bit I want to show you is the affordable data. So let's see. All right. So part of our team tracks every type of affordable proffer. So those come in different forms. They include DHF contributions. They include units, a combination of both, or land. And so this actually tracks the different types of proffers made in relation to affordable housing. And so we have the information needed to present to y'all in the summer regarding phase 2. But this tracks the types of affordable units, whether or not they are affordable by UDO definition or income restricted. And there's a cool percentage breakdown within this database. And as you'll see, sort of the most common one so far is 5%. That's sort of the most common percentage proffered at council. And then it's 8%, and surprisingly 100%. There's actually 7 cases that have 100% affordable units proffered through the rezoning process. And then, here we go. If that revives y'all's memory regarding certain cases. So all that information we have, and there's a breakdown of the characteristics of AMI and tenure to see what actually is being proffered at the legislative point in the process. So that's sort of the first component of the affordable units. The second component, which was, let's see, the number of units permitted and number of units constructed. So there's a secondary database that's been shared with Neighborhood Improvement Services, where we are keeping track of these legislative proffers through the recordation of the restrictive covenants that regulate the AMI on the site. So we have that, and so we shared it with NIS last week, and so they will be updating that component of the separate spreadsheet to sort of keep track of what's actually been built and what actually has had the deeds recorded. So that's just some updates on that. And so that is sort of a brief little tidbit, but again, more things will be fleshed out and in a bow when phase 2 is completed. But I just wanted to share the raw information with you since I am doing work. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Do we have any questions?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I want to just acknowledge and appreciate the level of work that goes into developing these databases.
Sure.
And also appreciate the ability to have that data when needed. So thank you for the hard work.
Thank you.
Since we are sending it over to Housing and Neighborhood Services, are we also then, because they're going to have the year that those expire, are we also tracking that?
Since
So
this
if
is a
it's like a
fresh,
30-year, you know what I'm saying?
since this is fresh, we can add it in terms of modifying the spreadsheet,
Uh-huh.
but that'll end when I probably retire. But it'll be in there.
We just want to make sure that somewhere it's getting tracked, because one of the things that we're going to have to do at some point is, I mean, that's why other communities have
Sure.
housing trust funds so that they can go and buy those units once their covenants expire. Otherwise, if we're not, and I'm really appreciative that we're tracking it. That's great, because that's been one of my worries. It's like, okay, that 30 years goes fast. I mean, I know we'll all be old, but I said, I know we'll all be old in 30 years. Sorry. It's like, not now necessarily, I'm saying, but in 30 years. So I just appreciate that we're doing that and that our departments are talking to one another in that way.
Yeah. It's been a cool experience.
Yes, thank you for your work on this. And just to follow up on what Councilmember Caballero said is, I don't know if what you all are requiring in those 30-year agreements, but it's really important that there is all something about the right of first refusal going to the city to when the 30-year protections end. We included that with our affordable housing projects at 300 and 500 East Main Street. We actually have 50-year timelines with those, but then at that point, the right of first refusal goes back to the county to have the opportunity to purchase those properties. We know that around 30, 40 years is when buildings need to be refurbished and repaired, and that's when, developers tend to want to offload them. But it is still cheaper for local governments to renovate affordable housing rather than build something new. And that's what we saw with the Carver Creek property and why it was so important that we got control of that. And to council members' point, we have a problem with, not tracking them and then having the opportunity to keep those publicly controlled. So I think that's something else for us to talk about and look at too. What kind of mechanism do we have?
Sure, we can talk to Rebecca and Bridget's group regarding that.
I love a good spreadsheet, good database. So Mr. Lester, thank you for this work. I'm really excited to have this as a resource.
Thank you.
I just had a really good question. How is this going to be delivered to
Charts and graphs.
people?
Yeah, it'll be in graph form, charts. There'll be like summary information, but I just wanted to share you all the raw information that has been collected over the past several years.
Okay.
This database started previously. I just ran with it and expanded it to what we needed. So,
Okay. I would suggest it, if possible, to use traditional AI or something that could be conversational, so you can ask it questions. This is a perfect situation for not generative, but just traditional, so that just, you know, off a website or something like that, you can ask a question of it, ask questions. I do it all the time, so, from spreadsheets. So, and if people want to get information, that is not the way to get it, from a spreadsheet. All right, true. Go ahead.
Just want to associate myself with the comments of my colleagues, but will there also be a legend in there when you compile all this information, just kind of make it user-friendly and readable, so maybe we won't have to have all that AI?
That'll be something worked out
Thank you.
with community planning. They're good at formatting all this information.
Y'all could delay all you want, but hey, it's gonna be. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so we are 26 minutes
We'll catch us.
late.
We'll catch us up.
All right, so, all right, let's keep moving.
All right, I'm going to talk about the FY27 work program. This is an item that, you know, back in February, we had kind of the early detection and warning system conversation about what may or may not be in it. We have included in your packet the final draft of the work program that we would be moving forward to both governing bodies for approval per the interlocal agreement. In it, I'm just going to highlight, there are 6 new things. We ended up keeping the LDC or the new UDO rewrite, obviously, because it did not move on the trajectory we originally envisioned, so that stayed. The 6 new things that we are proposing for next year are the Walltown Small Area Plan paper street closings. That one, I will tell you, is pending funding, which at this point, I don't think is looking good, but I've included it, and should miraculously something change during the course of the year and we bring in more revenue or something else, it gives us the, you know, we can tackle that. We also are including an item about natural resource protection overlays research. So basically to do a little research on, this is 153, Chris, on how other jurisdictions potentially tackle national resource protection overlays, how they function, what that might look like here if we were going to do something similar. And we would bring to you all, you know, a kind of a report on that and have further conversation. So it's not necessarily to adopt one or put one in place, but it's to do the legwork to see if that's something that we would want to do in Durham. The third thing, 154, is a tree canopy assessment analysis and our recommendations. As you all know, we had an item on this year and maybe last year's work program that actually City General Services, their Urban Forestry Division, took over to actually complete the tree canopy assessment. So they are, I believe, wrapping that up, and we will have their data. And so we will be looking at that and seeing how that may have implications for our land use regulations and our goals in terms of, you know, tree coverage, et cetera. And we'll be bringing you all some recommendations from that. 155 is biophilic cities metrics, essentially. So sometime this past year, the city adopted a resolution, I believe, wanting to be designated as a biophilic city. So that program requires, I think, that we track a number of metrics in different kind of categories. We have volunteered in the planning department to be the lead agency. We're not the only agency that will be participating in that, but we're going to try and pull all those metrics together, work with partner departments, and get that started. So, and then a couple of other things. 1.8 is urban design studios. This is a program that we had years ago that we are reviving. It's essentially a very small scale kind of design charrette envisioning with the community where, you know, if you think of a small area plan as covering, you know, a region, right? This is like a single site, right? That may need a little TLC. It may need some reimagining what could happen with the site. And so we do some community workshops or charrettes and propose some recommendations. So we will be reviving that program. And then the last thing we added under 8.9 is Clarity implementation. Clarity is the software platform that will replace our current land development office, or LDO, which is our permitting system from the 1800s, 2007. And we are very excited about that, but I do want to recognize that implementing a brand new permitting software like this is a big lift for city staff and will involve a fairly large chunk of our time. It will have many, many benefits, including efficiencies and robust reporting capabilities, the ability to create public dashboards for development data information that will really free up a lot of staff time. So it's well worth the investment of staff time up front. I just want to recognize, that it is going to be a pretty big time hog on us. So those are the 6 new things. I know I blew through that really quickly, and I'm happy to elaborate on any of those. We will need a motion from you all on this particular item to move it forward.
So as to adding these 6
Yep,
items into the plan,
yep.
work program.
It's basically, it's to recommend that the work program as drafted move forward to the governing bodies.
All right.
Chair, before, I think you're going to entertain a motion,
Yeah.
but can I ask this question before you do that so we can just be
Yeah.
expedient? Okay.
Yeah.
So on the Walltown Small Area Plan, there's a funding issue? Like, what's the issue there?
So the Walltown Small Area Plan is done. One of the recommendations was to close a number of paper streets that are in that neighborhood. And we need a surveyor to do the surveys for those in order to do the street closings. We don't have, a surveyor on staff. And so,
Right.
it's tight budget year. So I'm not sure that we're going to get the money to hire a surveyor to do that. But if we are able to, or can carve that money out of someplace else, then we will move forward with those.
Okay.
Okay. Well, not hearing any discussion, I'll accept a motion to, is it approve the changes to the work program?
Approval.
Recommend approval to the, and then move this to the governing bodies.
Chair, so moved.
Has been moved, we have a motion on the floor that's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please use the same sign. It is,
Thank you.
it is approved. All right, you did catch us up. We're only 3 minutes behind now. From 26 to 3, wow. All right, the fiscal year 26 work program, community planning projects. Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Bo Dobrinsky, Plan Development Department. Last few months, Scott Whiteman has presented to you this Gantt chart here showing the progress of our ongoing projects that are in our existing work program. So sorry to disappoint. My beard is not as good. So yeah, the multimodal TIA project you'll see here, undergoing process development. We've been meeting with 3 Oaks Engineering, our consultant, and obviously working internally, seeking adoption late summer, early fall. For Lakewood Small Area Plan, we're on the plan development currently with a final draft to be completed by the end of June. I'll note that there are several engagement events upcoming associated with Lakewood, April 16th and May 7th. April 16th will be focused on parks, open space, and connectivity, while May 7th will be specific for looking at the potential redevelopment of the shops at Lakewood. In regards to the Greater Bragtown Small Area Plan, currently staff is working on research and some deliberate outreach with community members. Formal kickoff will be later in the summer. You'll receive updates on both the small area plans in upcoming meetings, May actually. So for at least one of them, maybe both. Open space plan, our consultant agency land planning is currently conducting research and working on those recommendations. For the Orange Factory Heritage Community Program, our historic preservation staff is finishing up their research on this, and they've begun developing the story map. And then I'm very excited to say that we are currently working on work with our attorney's office on the staff for a consultant to conduct our historic properties inventory update. So again, this is just a high level overview of where these projects are at.
All right. Yes, ma'am. No.
Okay, out of curiosity, how often does a historic inventory update occur?
Yeah, it's every 10 years is what the plan says that we're aiming for. So we're like right on the money with the 10 years right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what is the Orange Factory Heritage Community Program? Does that have to do with the farm from the county, or is it something different?
No, the Heritage Community Program, I mean, I guess just to summarize, it's a way of, for city or county to sort of recognize the historic significance of properties or communities or an area that's less burdensome than our traditional local historic districts, which, have tax implications or development zoning regulations. And so this is more educational in nature, more commemorative. And so this is looking at the historic Orange Factory development and an old mill site and surrounding communities from many years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? This is for information, right? Okay, thank you, Bo. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Our next Joint City County Planning Commission meeting is on May 6th, 2026. Are there any other discussion items or topics that we need to cover? All right, hearing none. Do I need a motion to adjourn? All right. We are at 10:57, 3 minutes early. I'll give you guys that money back, that day back. We are adjourned.